Welcome to Crime Over Wine Weekly. It's Monday, June 24th. I'm Heather Holley. Here are your crime headlines. Nearly 30 years later, investigators know who murdered two women in Shenandoah National Park. Laura Winans and Julianne Williams went camping in May of 1996. Their families contacted authorities when the women didn't return home. Their bodies were found several days later. The case went cold until a new FBI team was assigned to it in 2021. They retested evidence and got a match. The DNA belonged to convicted serial rapist Walter Leo Jackson Sr. He died in prison in 2018. The son of convicted killer Alex Murdaugh is suing several media companies for defamation. Buster Murdaugh's lawsuit claims Netflix's Murdaugh Murders, a Southern Scandal falsely accused him of killing his classmate Stephen Smith in 2015. Buster says this has, quote, irreparably damaged his reputation and caused mental anguish. Smith's death is being investigated as a homicide. No arrests have been made. A motion hearing in Alec Baldwin's involuntary manslaughter case continues today. The actor's attorneys are again trying to get the charge dismissed, arguing the firearm was heavily damaged by the FBI before it could be examined for modifications that might have exonerated Baldwin. The judge previously rejected another motion for dismissal from the defense. The charges stem from a deadly rehearsal on the set of Rust. Cinematographer Helena Hutchins was shot and killed. The film's armorer Hannah Gutierrez Reed was convicted in March. She was sentenced to 18 months in prison and currently appealing her conviction. And coming up on Crime Over Wine Weekly, a Florida plastic surgeon faces charges in his wife's death, plus new evidence shows a Maryland woman may have had a connection to her mother's murderer. But first, let's bring in my co-conspirator. How you doing, Michelle?
Ooh, I like that title. Co-conspirator.
It's fun, unless we actually end up in the court of law, then I don't know you.
Yes, very true. Then we've never met before, and I wouldn't be able to pick you out in a lineup out of anybody. So, but I am doing great, Heather. Although, this heat, I swear to gosh, I'm melting.
Yeah, I'm a fall girly, even though we don't get much of a fall these past couple of years. We get like one whole day, but not a fan, and I think it's only going to get worse.
I know, and that's like the scary part, because if I'm already on the struggle bus now, I can only imagine a month and a half from now what it's going to be like, and I'm not looking forward to it.
No, but you know what helps?
What?
Wine.
Yes, wine, and oh, look, I just so happen to have a full glass right here.
Oh, I have an open bottle in front of me right here.
Oh my gosh, what are the odds that it's the same kind of wine?
I don't know. You tell me. What do you have? You go first.
So I have some Tropical Mango Moscato.
Oh, yep, that's what I have too.
So you picked this type this week, this flavor, and I'm interested. I've never had like any sort of flavored Moscato. Well, I've had pink Moscato, but nothing other than that. So I'm excited to try this one.
Yeah, I haven't either. I felt it's officially summer. I bought it on the summer solstice. I was like, ooh, this is giving summer vibes. Let's give this a go.
It really is. I mean, if it's going to be this hot outside, like feeling like it's 100 degrees, I feel like we deserve to at least feel like there is a nice tropical beach somewhere nearby, with a nice like ocean breeze. You know, do you get what I'm putting down?
Give us the tropic flavors if you're going to give us the tropic heat.
Yes.
Side note, Please drink responsibly, stay hydrated, and don't drink too much outside in the heat. Okay, thanks.
Do as we say, not as we do. So this week's wine, it's called Tropical Mango Moscato. Tropical mango is fresh, bright, and intensely aromatic with notes of peaches, honey, and ripe mangoes. These flavors carry through the palate, where the wine has soft bubbles and a refreshing mouthfeel. A bright finish will keep you going back for sip after sip. This wine goes great with spicy foods. You can also end your meal with the sweet tart taste of Tropical Moscato, served with soft or aged cheese and fresh fruit with honey. So, a couple of different options there. Let's try it out.
Definitely getting the honey.
Yeah.
I smell the mango way more than I taste it.
Mm-hmm. And I like the bubbles. Like that I feel like makes it feel lighter too.
Yeah, I feel like if it wasn't as bubbly, it would feel just like syrupy and gross.
Too heavy, yeah. So this is definitely on the sweeter side, as with a lot of Moscatos, but I do like the peach and the honey and the mangoes, even though, just like you said, I can smell the mangoes more than what I can taste them. But I definitely taste the peach in this.
Yeah, which is weird because they also have a peach flavor. So, does it taste like mango?
That's good. That's a fun one. I feel like that would be good. This would be a fun one to cut up like some fruit and like put it in there.
Yeah, like freeze little pieces of mango maybe and drop them in there.
Yeah.
Some berries. What is the alcohol content on this? Well, it's only like 5%. I was like, it does not feel like alcohol at all.
But it's a good one. Especially for people who like a little bit, drinks a little bit on the sweeter side. Like that is definitely one for you. And you could also like that. You could make like a sangria out of that, you know?
I don't think I've ever had sangria.
It's good. You can put like different like liquors in it too that you really won't taste because of all the fruit and stuff, but and then yeah, you put like fruit in it. And
So is it like a tropical island a tropical Long Island iced tea? Just you put all the liquors in there and
yeah,
okay.
you know, and then just see what happens.
No regrets.
Absolutely. Okay, so we are going to continue to sip on this mango moscato as we continue on with this episode of Crime Over Wine Weekly. We've got a lot to tell you about, including new movement in a 50-year-old cold case out of Texas. Could investigators be close to tracking down 3 young girls? Plus, an arrest is made in a 20-year-old cold case, the shocking connection to Leslie Preer's family, when we come back.
Get ready for that big test with Study.com. Study.com offers learning materials and test prep, even LSAT study prep guides for all of my legal nerds listening. Unfortunately, there aren't any wine study guides, and believe me, I did check. Listeners can get 30% off their first 3 months of any subscription level using the promo code CrimeOverWine. Again, that's promo code CrimeOverWine, no spaces, for 30% off your first 3 months at Study.com. Learn faster, stay motivated, study smarter with our sponsor, Study.com.
The case of 3 Fort Worth girls who vanished nearly 50 years ago recently received new attention. 17-year-old Rachel Trilka, 14-year-old Renee Wilson, and 9-year-old Julia Ann Mosley were last seen December 23, 1974. The trio went to the Seminary South Shopping Center and never came home. Rachel's car was found in the mall parking lot, with the girls' purchases still inside, but there weren't any other clues about where they went. The next day, the girls' families received a letter claiming they'd gone to Houston for a week. The note was allegedly written by Rachel, but her family doesn't believe it was. In 2018, 2 cars were pulled out of Benbrook Lake. It was originally thought they were connected to the case, but it's since been determined they are not. Clear Channel partnered with the Texas Center for the Missing and the National Center for the Missing and Exploited Children to try to generate new tips in the case. There are currently billboards across North Texas showing age-progressed photos of the girls. A spokesperson for Clear Channel says this could put millions of eyes back on the case. If you have any information, contact the Fort Worth Police Department at 817-392-4336.
Search teams in Georgia continue to look for a man 2 weeks after he was last seen. Garland Sims Warren was reported missing out of Lawrence County, Georgia on June 10th. Investigators say his truck was found at a Dollar General store on North McDonough Road in Spalding County. Search teams have used search dogs and a helicopter. The GBI has also performed forensic tests on his truck, including taking fingerprints. Investigators say he may have left the area on foot with a small dog. He was last seen wearing blue jeans and a shirt with stripes. If you have any information, call the Spalding County Sheriff's Office at 467 4282. And the story that I am bringing you guys this week, it's out of Maryland, and it is wild. Just buckle up for this one. A family in Maryland, they're in shock after DNA linked a woman's ex-boyfriend to her mother's murder. Lauren Preer's mother, Leslie Preer, was murdered in 2001. Lauren says she dated Eugene Gligor when she was about 15 years old. They dated for about 5 years. The two broke up 2 years into a long-distance dating relationship when Preer was in college. Lauren says that they didn't talk for about 3 years, but they both had mutual friends and kind of friend circles that interlapped each other. Then her mother was found beaten to death in her home in an affluent Chevy Chase neighborhood on May 2nd, 2001, after she didn't show up for work that day. The case sat cold for 23 years until last Thursday. A tip was called in for Eugene Gligor from one of his neighbors. The original case file included that same tip, an interview with the tipster, his criminal history, and incident reports that mentioned his name. Gligor was never interviewed or swabbed, according to police. Lauren says Gligor didn't show up to her mom's funeral, but she did run into him at a bar soon after her mom's death, and she told him that her mom had died. Gligor looked at her and replied, "I'm so sorry." Years passed. Lauren says that she ran into Gligor a handful of times at different events with mutual friends, and she said that they had limited interaction, but she never had anything that gave her suspicion that he knew anything about what happened to her mother. And then 3 years ago, Lauren says that she received a text message from her brother saying he was worried Gligor was going to hurt him. Lauren says she wasn't sure what to do with that information, so she just didn't reply. In September of 2022, police say blood evidence from the scene was submitted to a lab for forensic genealogical DNA analysis, and then later this month, Gligor was ID'd as a match. Gligor was arrested by U.S. Marshals in Washington, D.C. He is now charged with first-degree murder. He is set to go before a judge today, and Lauren says that she plans to be there. So this is wild. Could you think, like, we all more than likely had like a high school boyfriend or girlfriend, and that you can just probably remember. Could you imagine like losing your mom in this awful way, and then all of these years later finding out that it was your high school significant other that is now charged in for doing it? Like, that's just insane to me, especially the fact that she ran into him like so many times, and she says nothing was weird to her, that she never felt like he was acting off or anything like that. She described him as like warm when she talked about like the type of person he was and the type of connection that they had. And so it's just wild to me that here's this person, and she said that it's not even like they had like a bad breakup or anything like that. It was just, their lives went separate ways, and they just kind of grew apart, and like sometimes that's just what happens with life. But now he's charged with murdering her mother.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, if I think about my exes, they're crazy anyway, but like that's my choice in men. That's on me. So yeah, no. But if that was my family, he wouldn't be making it to trial. There'd be justice with my fist against his face a lot of times until he wasn't breathing. But that's premeditated.
And I want to know, like, what this text message, like, what did the brother, why? It's kind of weird that, like, Lauren, like, didn't really know how to respond, so she just didn't. Like, I feel like if my sister texted me something of that nature, like, my first thing would be like, why? Why do you say that? What's going on? Like, you know what I mean?
I don't have siblings, so I'm just like, I imagine that if they would text you and they're like, I think this guy's gonna hurt me, I think your ex is gonna hurt me, I should probably be concerned about that. But then I'm like, well, maybe the brother already hated the ex, or like they didn't have a good relationship. But just to not respond, where it's just like, you're fine. It'll be fine. Brush it off.
Yeah, that's just like so weird to me. And then something else I think that we should highlight, and we're seeing this more and more with cases, and I feel like we're going to just continue to see this happen more, but um investigators using forensic genetic genealogical DNA. So that's kind of where they go back on like your family tree, and they're able to, with just a little bit of DNA, they're able to kind of narrow down who someone might be. And that's what they were able to do with this. It is massively interesting, but it is also very complicated, and like the things that I watch for it, like I get the context of it, but when you sit and watch someone do it, it's like it blows your mind.
You gotta love technological advances, being able to still solve crimes from years and years ago. So I think that that's a big hope for a lot of families who are still waiting for answers. So I'm cool. I think it's really cool and eager to see how much more it develops and how many more cases can be solved with that.
And I mean, the more, you know, those companies that that do like the DNA kind of tracking, what is it, like 23andMe,
Yeah.
and there's other ones that are out there. You're submitting like in the fine print, like you're submitting to this huge bank of like DNA. And I don't know if people really understand that, but it's like all of this data is just like sitting there. And now investigators are like, they're able to utilize it. You know what I mean?
And I think the common person probably just wants to know which brand of European they are when they submit that test. So
Mm-hmm.
forget providing evidence or knowing that your dad was a serial killer in the end. Things you didn't want to know.
And I think like there's people out there that's definitely like what happens. Like one day you get a phone call or a knock at the door, and it's an investigator going, we need to talk.
Where's the Netflix docu-series on that, or Hulu? Where's that?
Yeah.
The amount of crimes that have been linked on 23 Plus Me. The other thing I thought was interesting was that they got the tip about him recently, but it was also the only other tip in the case previously, and they just didn't bother to look into that.
So they had other tips too, but yeah, but they essentially like didn't bother to look into it. And even when all this first happened, Lauren had to give, like, family members gave like a list of like kind of close-ish people, and the ex-boyfriend was on that list, but they just never like looked into him. It's, which is also like a little bit weird, because I think it's like what, 3 years since they broke up. um it's weird that she would have thought of him in that, but I mean, maybe she's like thinking like, oh well, he's been over at the house, they might find a fingerprint of his, even if it has been 3 years. I don't know, but yeah, I wonder what this tip was, what this neighbor knew. And I don't know if it's a neighbor of his or if it's like a neighbor of the family. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
and there's no idea on like, because the breakup wasn't bad, so it's not like I'll get back at her by taking her mother away, which screams mother issues on its own. But that's not what happened here, probably, since the breakup wasn't bad, right?
Yeah, they said like that there's no known motive as of right now. Maybe something like that will come out during trial time. I don't know. He might, being that there's been so much time, there might just be like a plea deal. I don't know, but
Yeah, and he's in court today.
yes,
Cool. So we'll maybe learn new stuff today.
we'll have to see.
And just ahead, there's a plastic surgery death arrest. What witnesses say the doctor did when his wife became unresponsive during a procedure he was performing. Plus, missing in Memphis, what Ryan Moore's family has shared about his mental state before he disappeared.
Crime Over Wine is proud to support Emancipet. Today, there are over 60 million beloved pets across the country whose families cannot access or afford veterinary care. With your help, Emancipet is changing that. Emancipet is a nonprofit that offers low-cost vet care for those who need it most. They rely on donations to keep their costs low for pet families across the country. You can support Emancipet's mission at emancipet.org. Crime Over Wine is sponsored by BetterHelp. As someone who's used therapy for years, I know that finding a therapist can sometimes be a stress on its own, juggling your full-time job, your family, your friends, your podcast, and trying to find the right therapist on top of that can almost feel impossible. That's where BetterHelp comes in. BetterHelp matches you with a therapist that works for you on your terms. It's online, it's remote, and by filling out a few questions, BetterHelp can match you to one of 33,000 licensed professional therapists in as little as a few days. And because finding a new therapist is a lot like finding a new bottle of wine, if you don't jive with your therapist, you can easily switch to a new one at no additional cost. You can get 10% off your first month of BetterHelp by going to betterhelp.com/crimeoverwine. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/crimeoverwine for 10% off your first month. Join over 4 million people who decided to get help and get happy with BetterHelp.
Police in Memphis are searching for a man whose family says he could have been in an impaired mental state when he went missing. Ryan Moore was reported missing on June 10th. Police say he was last seen near the 2000 block of South Parkway East. His family has not been able to contact him since. He is described as 5 foot 7 inches tall, about 141 pounds. Anyone with information about Ryan Moore should call the Memphis Police Department's Missing Persons Bureau at 901-636-4479.
A Maryland teen has been missing for more than a week. Baltimore County Police say Jemiah Rawls was last seen in the Essex area on June 13th. According to Missing People in America, a woman named Alexis was supposed to drop off the 13-year-old. The MPIA says Alexis told Jemiah's grandparents that she was taking her to her aunt instead of her mother, but the teen never arrived there. Jemiah is described as a black girl with black hair. She's 5'5" and about 180 pounds. If you have any information, contact the Baltimore County Police Department at 410-307-2020. And moving on to the case I'm bringing this week, a Florida woman became unresponsive during a procedure, and now the surgeon, her husband, is charged with homicide. Emergency crews responded to a plastic surgery clinic in Gulf Breeze last November. Benjamin Brown was performing after-hours procedures on his wife, Hillary Brown, when she became unresponsive and had a seizure. Hillary was taken to the hospital where she was put on life support. She never regained consciousness and died a week later. According to the Florida Health Department, Benjamin Brown was doing a scar revision, arm liposuction, lip injection, and ear adjustment procedure on his wife. Witnesses told investigators Hillary became restless and her feet started twitching during the procedure. She also told her husband her vision was becoming blurry and seeing orange. According to the health department, these were all early signs of lidocaine toxicity. The arrest warrant shows Benjamin continued injecting lidocaine into Hillary and didn't stop until she went into cardiac arrest. Court records show a medical assistant asked multiple times if they should call 911. Benjamin responded no or wait each time. 10 to 20 minutes passed before he asked an assistant to call for help. Benjamin Brown was arrested last week. He's charged with second-degree felony homicide and manslaughter by culpable negligence. His attorney says he intends to plead not guilty. His arraignment is scheduled for July 11th.
First of all, is this like normal for these types of doctors to like do things like outside of like work hours?
See, I don't know. Like, the whole scenario seems kind of weird. Like, I imagine if you're married or have other family member that you trust who is a surgeon of some kind and you want those types of procedures done, you might go to them or get a deal or something. But yeah, your wife after hours and doing that many things at one time seems problematic.
And she's like awake. Like it wasn't like she was asleep. I mean, I get lip injections. I don't know about an ear adjustment. I feel like I would want to be asleep for that. I don't know. It's just And here she is, like, saying, like, my vision's blurry and I'm seeing orange. Like, what?
So the health department report also included that she had apparently made her own IV bag ahead of the procedure. Like, he didn't even prepare it, she did. So there's no clear documentation of what all was in it. And then apparently popped like a handful of pills, which also weren't documented, but the witnesses said were taken. I don't know. That's just scary to me. Like, I don't mess around with like medication and
Yeah.
procedures and anesthesia and whatnot. Like,
Yeah. That is. That's insane to me. Does it say, like, how old she was?
she was 33 years old.
Oh my gosh, that's so young.
I saw varying reports, but there are several children now who don't have their mother and their father's going to trial. He's already bonded out. He was arrested and bonded out the same day.
Wow.
But, I mean, depending on what the case is, that's several young children. Either way, they've lost their mother.
Yeah, that is just awful. It's all fun and games when it, like, oh, you're getting, like, a great deal. Like, obviously, she is going to trust her husband. She's going to, like, trust her life, you know, with him. She did. But also when you get, like, that comfortable that, you know, you start bending the rules. You know, the rules are there for a reason.
Yeah, and outside of the criminal case here, the health department has also filed like a professional complaint for him to potentially lose his license to be able to practice. Their point is, you know, all those undocumented medicine, the IV bag, the refusing to call 911 for 10 to 20 minutes while she's unresponsive. And their bottom line in the report is that if he was willing to be that negligent with his own wife, like, how is he going to treat other patients?
Mm-hmm. And, like, to be that medical assistant that was in the room, I mean, I don't know if there was just one or if there was multiple, but I mean, to ask multiple times, you want to call 911, you want to call 911, and for him to keep saying no, like, I don't know. I almost would have just been like, I'm calling.
With it being an after hours procedure, I don't know if that's something you're not supposed to do. Like, if that's just a no-no in the medical world. And the assistant maybe knew that and didn't want to get in trouble for anything else, or maybe they were just in shock about the whole situation, because if it was just a clinic like that, it doesn't sound like they are equipped or expect to have medical emergency events like that on their hands.
Yeah. It's probably, like, just one of those places that can do, like, kind of minor stuff. I mean, especially if he just gave her lidocaine, you know what I mean? It's like one of those places that you just walk in, they do whatever, and then you leave. So yeah, they probably weren't, like, equipped to handle something really bad happening. It'll be interesting to find out, like, what was in her blood.
Can't remember if it was a sheriff's office or police department that made the announcement of his arrest this week on social media. There were a lot of people that were like, it took too long. And part of their statement was, you know, there was a very thorough investigation with the health department and the medical examiner, and we had to wait for all those results. So it sounds like they have everything in. It just hasn't been reported or released yet. Maybe they're holding on to that for court. So I'm interested to see that, and then his reasoning for not calling for help.
Mm-hmm.
Hoping we get some testimony or something like that from him.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting one to follow. See what comes out of it.
For sure. On a lighter note, did you enjoy your wine?
Yes, even though I have not. Usually I finish the glass, and I have not finished the glass by now. But I do like it.
Oh, I'm halfway to the bottle.
Look at Heather. I'm proud of you.
Look at me go. And that's also probably why I'm not talking very well now.
And also, our dear friend Liam is listening in on this episode, and he also questioned you, Heather, on, like, how have you never had sangria before?
It just never appealed to me. I don't know. And I don't think this is a reason not to have it, but my brain keeps mixing that and that Santeria song. They're like, I don't practice Santeria. But my brain is like sangria.
Okay, that was random.
That's just...
That was like the most random thing. I had no idea where you were going with that.
Gotta keep them on their feet.
Well, we are going to have to introduce you to some sangria at some point because I feel like you need to try it.
Brunch day. Let's go out. We haven't gone out in a while. I don't think we've gone out since my birthday, the three of us.
No, we haven't.
We should change that.
Yes, we'll have to put that on the calendar. We can call it a business meeting.
Tax write-off. Sorry, everyone. This is quickly derailing. Thanks for listening. And if you can't get enough of Crime Over Wine Weekly, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
We will see you next Monday for the next episode of Crime Over Wine Weekly.
Proud member of the Podnuga Network.